Good morning. Woo! My name is Mary Mitchell, and I welcome you to All Souls Church of Braintree. Today, I'm going to be sharing some highlights from this year's Virtual General Assembly, also known as GA. GA is the annual meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Association, also known as the UUA. This is our fourth experiment today with a multi-platform service, joining people in person in our parish hall together with people accessing the service virtually through Zoom. I hope you have noticed improvements in your experience with each successive week. We are all learning together in this endeavor, so after the service is over, please reach out with your constructive feedback and suggestions. Virtual attendees can access the order of service through a link that I hope can be provided on the church website. It's definitely there or in the chat. Cool. I want to thank Andy Pierce and Alicia Jarman for handling the tech aspects of today's service, and Lauren McGrath for helping me out a little later. If you are joining virtually, please remain on mute unless you are speaking. Oh, there's also an offertory basket on that little table over there. And if you'd like to donate through the church website, perhaps Alicia can also paste that link in the chat. This year's General Assembly was guided by the theme, Circle Round for Justice, Healing, Courage. The event had originally been scheduled to take place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin before the pandemic hit. And that created the need for the GA once again to go completely virtual. The opening service on Wednesday was titled Draw the Circle Wide. The Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom, senior minister of the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee, used these words of welcome. We welcome you into this worship service, welcoming people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all that you're bringing with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We welcome all of you. And I'd like to invite Lauren to come forward. She is going to light the chalice and the green candle. Reverend Nordstrom continued with these chalice lighting words. Remember, they were directed at hundreds of people in hundreds of places, geographically distant, but connected all together through their screens, as some of us are today. These are her words. "'Tis time to circle round, beloveds. Let's start by drawing near, drawing in your own breath, drawing near to your own beating heart. And as you notice your body and your setting, notice also a chalice nearby. I have one here, and you may have one there. Perhaps it is an app on your phone or a hope in your heart. Whatever spark you bring, 'tis time to light our chalices. Notice the circle of illumination made possible by this symbol of our shared faith. Notice the circle of warmth that flames can provide. Now imagine not just a single point of light from a single chalice, but imagine all of the chalices that are lit all across the land at this very moment. Imagine us to be a part of a single circle, a circle that expands and widens, a circle that welcomes, a circle that includes all kinds of chalices, all kinds of flames, all kinds of love. Come, let us draw the circle wide. And thank you, Lauren, for lighting our green candle, which is symbolic of our commitment to being a green sanctuary congregation. May both these flames call us to kinship with and great care for the earth and her living creatures. Thank you. Now, this is a time in the service where we're going to read the draft covenant. And last week, Andy Pierce led a service focusing on that topic. We read the initial introductory statement together, as we plan to do all summer, and we sang it along with Mike Domina, who would set the statement to music. We welcome the feedback from last week's attendees and expect that there will be a process over the next few months to fine-tune the wording based on that feedback and other that might be coming in. Your further suggestions should be conveyed to Andy Pierce or Mike Domina. One of last week's suggestions was to remove a few words from the initial statement to shorten it and make it easier to memorize. So this week, I suggest we try that version on for size, but it still appears in its original form on the back of your order of service. So the revised statement is on the front of your order of service. So let us read together the revised initial sentence of the draft covenant, which appears on your order of service. We covenant to create a caring, affirming, and inclusive community that invites us to become our best selves. Thank you. And now it's time for joys and concerns. If you have a heartfelt milestone, joy, or sorrow you'd like to share, you're invited to come forward to the microphone if you are here. If you are joining virtually, you can unmute and wave your real hand, raise your virtual hand icon, or type a message in the chat, and we will read it aloud. And we are recording the service. It will not be posted for general consumption on YouTube. This segment of the service will not be recorded or shared anywhere. And if you want to have access to the recording of the service, you can get in touch with Maggie eventually, who can share the link for just our community. So I invite anyone to come forward, or if you want the mic brought to you, we can try to do that. And Lauren, would you drop one final stone for those joys and concerns that are in our hearts but have remained unspoken today? Now it's time for our centering body prayer, and Lauren's going to help me with that. She's getting a workout today. I'm going to have my script too. So, in Friday's service, which was presented by the UUSC, which is known as the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, it was titled Grounded in Courage, Gathered for Justice. Reverend Jacqueline Brett led participants in what she called a body prayer. You could just call it a song with hand motions, but the difference is that as we sing and do the hand motions, we do so with intentionality and reflection, giving it a contemplative feel. Lauren and I have tried to learn the simple movements that go along with the familiar song, Circle Round for Freedom. And we invite you to join in as you feel ready and as you are able. We also invite you to not be too concerned about getting all the hand motions right. Simply allow your heart to guide you. But know that there's going to be motions like this. So you might want to be cognizant of your of your neighbors and try not to hit them in the head or something like that. Okay. Lauren, like this paper has gone on my foot. That was just somewhere we're supposed to stand. All right. Ready. Little Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for relief. One more time. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for relief. Circle for the planet. Circle for our souls. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Thank you. Lovely. I've called this What I Learned at GA. This community, All Souls, is a big part of my life. And I have to admit, there are times when I have thought and even said that our denomination is not much help to small churches such as ours. I have felt that the UUA can be profoundly out of touch with our day-to-day experience. Here we are, valiantly trying to keep our heads above water with part-time staff and dedicated volunteers, while the UUA is out there advocating for its member congregations to do frivolous things like develop covenants, or build their social justice movement ministries, or renew their green sanctuary status. But each of the 3 times that I have attended General Assembly, I have returned to the routines of my regular life with renewed energy, enthusiasm, and hope for the future. And there are 3 reasons why. The first reason why I believe that UUA's General Assembly is relevant and important to our small church is that the UUA has the structure, staff, and resources to address big, significant issues in our world in a way that our one small church cannot. The leaders of our denominational organizations see the rampant inequities in our world and have mobilized to address them. They see that despite our stated reverence for the inherent worth and dignity for every person, our own organizations are prone to the same systemic racism that is so prevalent in the wider world. In 2017, the UUA created this Commission for Institutional Change, and it was charged with supporting long-term cultural and institutional change that redeems the essential premise and ideals of Unitarian Universalism. It was to conduct an audit of the power structures and analyze systemic racism and white supremacy culture within the UUA. It issued a 200-page report last year in February, and in it, it reported on numerous instances of how people of color, both congregational staff, newcomers to congregations, members of congregations, and friends, how they were subtly and not so subtly made to feel unwelcome within UU congregations. The report concludes, in spite of the promise of our movement, we still need to address the bias and oppression within our systems to build resilience in our living tradition for the times we are in and strengthen it for future generations. Making these changes will allow us to stay relevant. Addressing these issues will allow us to live into the theology we profess. Furthermore, if we are committed to this work as central to our faith, we will create the conditions in which all who are attracted to the theological premises of our faith can thrive. And I remember reading, there was a statement that there were some people of color who were in the ministry in the Unitarian Universalists, and they said, so many people like us are attracted to the theology, but or the principles, but when they actually come into the congregations, they don't feel like they belong. So that's kind of the foundation of how this came to be. As part of this effort, the UUA Board of Trustees will be reviewing the UUA's bylaws and suggest ways to update them to reflect the increased speed with which we communicate and the need for simpler procedures and protocols to make them more accessible to more people. Also, I don't know if anybody has heard of this, but our 7 principles are laid out in Article 2 of our bylaws, and there are a group of UUs who have been advocating for the adoption of an 8th principle, which would articulate a commitment to the dismantling of white supremacy within the stated principles of our faith. So the 8th principle reads, it goes, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Some congregations have already voted to adopt the 8th principle independently of the UUA. The second reason why attending General Assembly gives me renewed energy and hope is that it reminds me that our small congregation is part of larger efforts to make the world a better place in conjunction with other congregations and with the denomination. An example of this is the UU the Vote initiative that launched at last year's General Assembly. A year later, at this year's GA, our president, Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray, provided the following statistics in her annual report to the GA delegates. Over 5,000 volunteers and over 450 congregations participated in UU the Vote. We registered over 10,000 new voters, sent over 1 million texts, over 1 million postcards, and made over 600,000 phone calls, and I made maybe 5 of those. UU's contacted over 3 million voters. High-level investments in key states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, not only helped voter participation, it helped make sure that every vote was counted. Importantly, the structures were built and lessons were learned that can and will be used in future efforts along these lines. The third reason I appreciate General Assembly is that its programs model ways to do things that may be unfamiliar to us. In a small church, it's easy to continue to do the same things over and over because it's less work. Other congregations are doing the same things we are, writing welcoming words, chalice lightings, making music, but they may be doing them a little differently or a lot differently. So many resources are available at GA, and it is easy to be inspired to try out some of these things on our own congregations. Our experiment with the body prayer today is a testament to that. The program leaders at GA were very conscious of finding ways to include people who might be having difficulties fully accessing the programs due to disabilities or discomfort or lack of access to the technology. A modeling practice that proliferated as GA progressed this year was that some speakers, when they began, would introduce themselves and describe what they look like and their background, presumably to help those with visual impairments or those joining the event without access to video. Maybe they're on a telephone. In that instance, I might say, I am a short woman with gray hair and glasses. I am wearing a pink shirt and I am standing in front of a green backdrop. And this would go along with the saying my pronouns are she, her, hers. And then, I mean, there was a lot that went on in these introductions. Another example of modeling was that at many sessions, they began with a land acknowledgement statement, naming the indigenous tribes that had once inhabited the land where the speaker or organization resides. For instance, in Braintree, we might say, our church is located on occupied land of the Massachusetts and Wampanoag people. There is a cumulative power in hearing people consistently make these statements, especially when they come from every area of the country. It is a reminder that at one time, thousands of indigenous tribes occupied this land with some names that we've never heard of, and that their descendants are still living among us. I hope in our community we can continue to be open to, maybe even welcome new ideas and explore practices that could broaden and deepen the impact of our time together. So that is why I am proud to be associated with the Unitarian Universalist Association, and why I look forward to next year's General Assembly, which is planned to be offered live in Portland, Oregon, as well as on Zoom. Next year, we just voted this year, that delegates will be able to attend the General Assembly meetings without having to pay to register for the entire conference. So that's a big way they're trying to make things more equitable for everybody. We've had, which is amazing to me that it's taken them this long to do that. So now, some recordings of the business meetings and services are available for viewing on the UUA website from this year's meeting. More will be released in the fall. But right now, all the recordings from last year's General Assembly, which includes like many, many, many workshops on many, many topics, they are now available on the UUA website under 2020 GA. Our final slide is a snapshot of the number of delegates and participants at this year's General Assembly. For those who are curious, my memory says that there are about 4,000 people who were registered to attend. Alicia, maybe can you share with us what that slide says in terms of numbers?
Absolutely. 2,025 delegates, 1,568 members, 331 ministers, 123 religious educators, which I found funny because it's 1, 2, 3 and they're educators. I don't know if anybody else got that. Three associate members, 622 congregations from 49 states and Washington, D.C., British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, and Mexico, and 4,000 plus registered attendees.
Thank you. Now, I don't know that I was in any meeting where 4,000 people were signed in as participants. So people picked and choose, and everybody, I don't think, was ever at one place at one time. But anyway, so now I invite any questions or comments or reactions to what you just heard. Do you think, well, Lynn, you're going to have to.
Program that you. Did you have any particular program that you attended? Because I know that they have breakout programs that you would want to perhaps share a few words about.
That means I have to activate my memory. But there was a service that I found really moving, which was a worship service of the Indigenous subcommittee of this group called Blue, which is Black Lives. No, was that it? This drum. This is something. There are so many acronyms. And at first I was going to go down this dark hole with this presentation of talking about all the acronyms. I'm going, no, this is not going to do it. But I guess there's a group called Drum, and there's an Indigenous subcommittee of that, and our former minister Clyde Grubbs is a part of that. And they did what I thought was a really powerful service. It included some poetry reading. It included music that was done by Indigenous young people, but it was, it was like a fusion, right, of Indigenous stuff along with modern day music, rap, hip hop. And I just thought it was very cool. There's music interspersed throughout programs that is usually really interesting. And even just going back to try to prepare for this, and it was only like, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I have notes and I'm like, oh, what was that? And where did I hear that? And So the worship services are usually, interesting. Not so much informative, but sometimes just like we're saying, like modeling. Oh, I had never thought of doing that. On the Sunday service that we all watched together in late June, they did this practice of a humming meditation. And I think that's something that might be fun to try in the future. So, any other comments, reactions? What do you guys think about? I mean, to me, when I was watching these people on the screen going through, first we do the pronouns, then we do the land acknowledgement, then we do I'm going to describe my, it's like, oh my God, are we ever going to get to the program? But something that it's so interesting. I think you really just had to figure out what works for you as a congregation. But the whole land acknowledgement thing is something that has been recommended, that you just not start like saying that, all of a sudden you start saying that in front of your service, but it's suggested that you go through a process of actually researching, are there any Wampanoag, Massachusetts people living right now in Braintree? And maybe we should be talking to them. We just don't want to appropriate, oh yeah, it's easy to put those words together, but to do the work to back it up and to actually make a commitment to try to work towards equity for Indigenous people who are still here is a whole nother issue. Rick.
Well, actually, I tell you, I believe that I am speaking for everyone here. Everything that you people come up with in the General Assembly is actually what we all feel in our hearts. And we don't need to say it because you people are saying it for us. But we do believe in everything that you are saying, I'm sure, because that's who we are. We're all Unitarians and we all believe in everything together. I think that's the key, together.
Hi, this is Don. I wanted to say that I think that the land acknowledgement concept is awesome. I actually heard it at some local UU workshop that I was at. And when I first heard it, it was shocking to me. But I realize we are occupying land that was owned by, or maybe you could say is owned by other people. Or, they were here first,
Just a quickie, I just love that Mary shared so much in the Friday chat with President Susan Gray's words. This is Lauren speaking, and I was very, very impressed with the new initiative that they're doing to bring in youth, because this is the time of technology and the youth are the best at bringing that and helping us spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any comments from the virtual attendees?
The only thing I would say is the Indigenous acknowledgement. I don't want to say I take issue with, but I wonder how it would sit with Indigenous persons where we're saying that they owned the land, because I think that is directly against their philosophies. And obviously I'm generalizing. I think they cared for the land. I think they had responsibility for the land, but I think it would be offensive to most Indigenous peoples to say they owned the land, because the land can't be owned. That's just my caretakers. Thank you, Kelly. Caretakers of the land. Because where we take issue with semantics. There you go.
No, I totally agree with that. And the concept, I think in the statement that I use the word occupied. I can't remember now. What did I say? But yeah, I mean, the idea of ownership is like, that's a Western concept, to own the land. So I think I said our church is located on the occupied land that was once inhabited by, no, that's not right. The land of the Massachusetts and Wampanoag people.
That works.
So the word owner is not in there. That was, okay. Yeah. Hey, and we're all, we're, and this is one thing also that was, pointed out is that we're all trying to learn. We're all learning, and we're not going to do everything right, and, we're going to do our best to acknowledge the common humanity of everybody on our planet, regardless of where they're from or what they look like. But that's not how we've been raised.
There are a couple of messages I'd like to read. Kelly Kinsman put up on the chat, which we can't see here, stolen land. And Diane, let's see, sorry, just give me one moment, because we're dealing with issues trying to view things on the projector here. Thank you, Mary, for a most thorough affirmation of our UU principles. I am inspired to attend next year's meeting. And Kelly Kinsman, her full wording was caretakers of the land, stolen land.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. All right. I want to give a shout out to Lauren, to Andy, to Roger, and with John also do ushering this morning. Those of you who are helping, to my husband, Tom, who helped set up. So many hands make this a project well done. And I'm going to extinguish, actually, I'm going to ask Lauren to extinguish the chalice with that little snuffer. And with these words are from Robin F. Gray. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world. And now I'm going to invite, if Joe was able and willing to do our announcements.
Yes, I'm willing and able. So all events are online in the church Zoom room unless otherwise stated. Right after the service here today, the Development and Engagement Committee will be meeting to discuss our upcoming yard sale, which is next month. Tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 will be our midday meetup connection circle, and that will be an informal conversation. Tomorrow evening at 6:30, the Board of Trustees will be meeting. You can skip the Thursday, July 15th announcement that's already taken place. This coming Friday, the 23rd at 10 o'clock, will be a Connection Circle coffee hour, and the themed discussion will be still continuing with our General Assembly. Next Sunday at 10:30, the presenter will be our former minister, Reverend Steve. And prior to the start of service at 9:30, there will be a pre-service social time with Reverend Steve, where you can visit with him. And there will be refreshments provided. And I just do ask that if you're here visiting with Reverend Steve, just please allow space to the technology setup team, just allowing them time to set up, as it takes quite a while. So it'd be appreciated if people could just allow that space for the technology team. Are there any other announcements? Yeah.
Joe mentioned that the Friday Zoom groups are, we've been talking about GA all month, and I've been showing some film clips, and this is all on Zoom, some film clips from things, some music. I never exactly quite know what I'm going to pick up, but people have seemed to enjoy it. So anybody who maybe isn't a regular but want to pick that up, we should be doing it for the rest of July. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to also mention too that everyone's welcome to attend these events. Roger?
Good morning, everybody. This is my first opportunity, really, to thank all of you that did vote for me as development chairman. However, what you voted for is a pretty face. My right and my left hand is Tom over there. He really is. He's tremendous. I love working with him. I've worked with him on projects before, and he's just terrific. I do want to mention the yard sale coming up on the 22nd. I wish we have sign-up sheets. There's 2 pages, so there's all sorts of opportunities for you. We would appreciate you doing that. It's vital. We need the money, let's face it. So if you could do that, that would be great. I'll leave the sign-up sheets over here if you want to look at them over and sign up for something. That would be great. I just want to mention also, if you have old clothes or shoes or anything, we have that bin outside. I know myself, I have something in the car I have to put it in today. So anything you can do to help, well, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
When you said the 22nd, you mean August, right?
Yeah, 22nd of August. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. And it's early, so. Lauren, did you want something? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Correct.